Welcome back to the Trusted Podcast. Today we're joined by Amira, a very well-known advocate for women in financial services.
Amira's had huge success as a financial advisor and as a sales professional as well. She also has her own business focused on mentorship, which we'll discuss today.
So sit back, grab a cuppa and enjoy our content.
Amira Norris, a very warm welcome to the Trusted Podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
How was the trip up today on the M6?
It was the M6, so as usual, slow, hot, and a bit of a pain, but perfect to be here. Really happy to join you.
Oh, good stuff. It's great to have you. Any interesting podcasts that you were listening to on the way up today?
Yes, I was listening to your podcasts, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, so I downloaded a couple of them this morning to listen on the way up here, just to get an idea for what everyone's been chatting about. So yeah, they were really good. So well done on everything you've done so far.
Good.
Thank you. We're really excited to get your fresh perspective.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And I think with that, Amira, it'd be really interesting to start off your life in financial services. It was really interesting, the story that you told me. And it'd be really interesting to understand how that was for a woman back then as well, because it had been a different landscape to what it is now.
A little bit, yeah. So I'm 30 years in this game now, but it started off really young. I was 15. I needed a summer job. I wanted money for the summer to go out with all my mates, and mum and dad said, if you want it, you've got to go out and earn it. So I found a little local IFA on our local high street who was looking for somebody to, in hindsight, probably do one of the most boring jobs in financial services. So it coincided with the first ever pensions review. And I had to sit for 6 weeks in a dark room looking for anything that resembled a letter of authority, a suitability report, and a terms of business. And 30 years, I'm still here. But for me as a girl coming into the profession, I also went to an all-girls school. So I had spent my childhood being told, full of potential, full of opportunity, nothing holds you back. And I was so lucky with my first job because it was a female-owned IFA business. She was a really strong, powerful, independent woman, ran her own business. Her husband did the books, and she had another female IFA working with her. So I never saw that there was a problem about being a woman in financial services. And then when I finished my university degree and I was looking for a job, I went to work for a firm called Bakery Davies that subsequently have gone on to become part of 1825 and that trajectory for their business. But it was the same thing. So I went in fully kind of embraced as a person who had knowledge and technical ability. There was a really diverse team, all backgrounds, really good blends. There was 3 female advisors in that business as well. So it was only really when I went up to the Midlands, and I finally moved to the Midlands, and I walked into my first kind of conference up there, and I walked into the room and I was literally the only woman in the audience who wasn't serving tea. And that was the first time I suddenly thought, oh God, there is a gap here. And it made me realize that there is not just a gender differential in financial services, but there's a really strong regional differential in it as well.
It's funny you say that. Somebody once, after I presented, and I was quite young as well and new to the industry, said, oh, I thought you were here just to hand out the flyers.
Yeah. I've had that so through my early career. I've even had it really recently, when you go and you sit down in a boardroom and somebody comes in and they immediately kind of go, well, who's going to make the tea then?
Yeah.
And I joke now, it better not be me because I make rubbish tea. So, you better help yourself. But there are that kind of subconscious kind of biases.
So you've obviously throughout your career, had to break down a lot of barriers. Like, how have you gone about that? You must be really resilient as a person.
I don't know that we are all resilient. So in financial services, I think to succeed in our profession, where the goalposts change all the time, regulations change, things move quite quickly, you actually have to be quite a resilient person regardless of your background to do well. And you have to embrace the fact that things are constantly changing and evolving. So you take that aside and then you start thinking about individual challenges. It's better not to focus on the otherness of things that you're bringing in and just embrace it as it's just another challenge. It's just another thing that we have to get over or think and work our way through. And I think that way you take a level of optimism and positivity into it rather than focusing on the problems that might be associated with it. Does that make sense? Yeah. because sometimes you just fixate on the otherness of things. I'm too young, I'm too old, I haven't got a degree. There's all these other things that can sometimes put you off coming into the profession, and actually just embracing it as any other kind of career and kind of working your way through it, I think is the best way.
Yeah, definitely. And then kind of early on into your career, very successful on the financial advice side, went for a transaction with that business, and then moved into kind of full sales itself as well. What kind of propelled you to get into that?
So the golden thread for me in all of this has been distribution, sales, proposition. So even in the advice kind of days, part of the fun for me was meeting new clients, engaging with people, and kind of building kind of relationships. Yeah. And then when we sold the business, I was faced with quite a restrictive covenant that said, please go and behave yourself for a little while. And I had to go and do almost internal type jobs like compliance or something like that. And actually the thought of doing that petrified me, because I get my energy from other people. So it was really important for me to try and find something where I could continue to build relationships and engage. And I was really lucky that there was a platform that we used. I'm not sure if we're allowed to name names, but it was Nucleus. It was the platform that we used in our business. And the sales director from there came along and said, what are you going to do for the next year? And I was like, I have no idea. And he said, have a go. What's the worst that can happen? You don't enjoy it. And neither of us have kind of lost anything from it. Why don't you have a punt? So I do always say in all your career, be intentional about what you're going to do, but also when an opportunity presents itself, have a moment of bravery and don't worry about the fact that it's really different. You're going to kind of lean on some skills you'd learnt before. So I went and started selling a platform. And then I did that for 9 years. And then I've just had another kind of shifting career again. It's my third chapter. And I now work for a consultancy. But it's really interesting. It's the same people. It's the same environment. We're talking about the same problems. It's just the slants that we bring to them that are slightly different. But the root is always building relationships with people and trying to fix problems.
Brilliant. I think tied into that as well, obviously, I've seen you on LinkedIn. We've spoke a couple of times. Very, very busy person, up and down the country all of the time as well. How do you manage that work-life balance, and how do you kind of stop yourself from burning out and continuing to go?
It goes through phases. So like one of the things I like about this podcast is you can have complete honesty. You can burn out really easily doing it. And I have done at various points. I've got there and I've thought, oh my God, I haven't been home in 2 weeks. This is my third suitcase. And I used to do it. The spare room used to be the clothes piled out for every trip. And like literally home was a conduit to dump, pick up and go again. But the thing that I've learned over the years is it's that discipline and boundaries are so important. So you've got to be quite rigid, and you've got to start listening to your family and your friends around you and being quite mindful about your planning. So that's not stop, that's not hold yourself back or do anything different, but just be more conscious about the gaps that you put between trips. So I have always, like maybe for the last 20 years, or it's been national roles for me. So I will have periods of time when I'm up in Scotland or down in the southwest. But what I try and do now is go periodically, once a quarter. I know I want to go and do at least 5 or 6 meetings when I'm up there. So I don't mind packing those days really, really full. And then when I come home, then I can leave myself 2 days to do all of the follow-up, because that was the one thing I was always really bad at. You used to jump from one to one, and you don't leave yourself those gaps for that proper deep work that you need to do after all the meetings that you've just had and that kind of thing as well. So it's a craft. It really is a craft that you learn over the years. And that doesn't mean that I've got it right. I have no doubt, as work picks up and as, it's very cyclical in our world, you'll get to tax year end and you'll be running around like a blue-ass fly again. But that's the kind of nature of the beast.
I think it's so important though, and it's great that you're a big advocate of that as well. We were talking to a wellness coach recently, and as salespeople, we feel like we always need to be on. We always need to be in our best behavior. We need to be engaging. And what I find difficult sometimes, and I think a lot of people in our community, you have a full week traveling, and then your friends want to socialize or your family want to socialize. So Have you always been quite disciplined in making sure you get good downtime outside of working
Never. I'm
hours as
terrible
well?
at it.
No.
No, but I am much better at it now. I think as with age and experience, you do get much better at
Yeah.
it. And I need to switch off. So I will go through phases where I'm supposed to be doing my life admin at home. I cannot abide the thought of picking up a phone and speaking to another human being. I've been doing it like, I had a day a few weeks ago where I must have spoken to about 10, 12 people in one day, kind of back-to-back meetings. I got to the end of it and I was just like, I'm done. I'm just on switch off mode. Like, go into the kitchen, put some music on, cook. Don't talk to me. Don't engage with me. I just need to decompress.
I'll watch my phone ring sometimes and then I'll just text and be like, Mum, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
Let's catch up in the morning.
Yeah.
I think that can have a strain as well with partners, because I've been similar, as you say, when you've been back to back all day, partner comes home from work, not really interacted with anyone and wanting to have like a how's your day full chat. It was
good,
hard.
thanks.
Yeah. It's good.
No, it's true. But that's the important thing of bringing your family kind of along the journey with you. And that's probably how we fall into our friendships, sometimes coming from other people that we're engaging and working with, because there's that kind of common understanding of this is the type of work that we do, and we have on days and off days, right?
Yeah. You mentioned when we first met about sometimes people can blur the lines between professional relationships and personal relationships. What impact can that have on people and their careers?
So I think there's a misconception that you've got to be everybody's mate sometimes. And that because we say it is about deep human connection and it is about the relationship that you have with somebody, but that doesn't mean that you've always got to be invited to their weddings. You've got to, see them for Sunday lunch and that kind of thing. There is a nice professional boundary that I think works really well, that you can have social interactions and engagements, but you also don't have to blur the line into full friendship and full friendship mode. It works for some people, but it doesn't have to work for everybody. And it's part of crafting the BDM role for your own style and your own way of working. So I don't play golf. I don't know, Lucy, if you play golf.
I do not.
Yeah. But you see you see it very often.
Yeah.
That if you're a BDM, you've got a big group network of friends, all of a sudden on a Sunday, you're playing golf together, which is great. But do you have to talk about work? Probably not. So it's finding the right times to be the salesperson and the times to just be the informal, you're building a friendship and a relationship.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I try and mean about those kind of boundaries and those line blurrings. It's not all things for all people.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of sales, what's your kind of perception on education? And that's, i.e., being qualified similar to an advisor or on the investment management side? Or do you think qualifications aren't important? It's more down to that person and who they are as well?
So I think everything is teachable. So the most important thing for me is, what is that person presenting to me when they're coming in to start their career here? And probably the only thing that's really important is, do you like people? Because this is a very people-orientated job and role. So whether you're doing it online or whether you're doing it in person, you've got to be able to build connections and build bridges with people. So that is probably the only thing I really look for, is that, can you build rapport quite quickly? Can you build empathy quite quickly? I would then say everything else is teachable. So if you come into the industry and you don't even know what a pension is, that's absolutely fine, because we can get you on a program that skills you up and gets you the knowledge that you need. I think qualifications are quite important, because the people that we're serving and the people that we're wanting to engage with all have to go through it themselves. So there is a much stronger element of credibility that we have by saying, I am as qualified as you. I know the burden that you've had to go through to be an advisor, to be an accountant, to be a solicitor, because they're all kind of professional services with it. We always, I think, overlook the soft skills. And I think they are as hard to teach, but in different ways. So we try and shortcut it. And we try and say, well, if you come in and you've got all of these gregarious skills and you've got all the soft skills and everything, that's going to get you the edge. And that probably is true because we're lazy, and it's much harder to try and invest in somebody to teach them the soft skills. But I don't think that should be such a hard and fast rule. I think it's eminently teachable with the right kind of teachers and mentors and coaches that help you along the way with it.
And when you have recruited historically, I think sometimes salespeople they're all extroverts, they're all very outgoing, they're all very social, but that's certainly not the case. What's been your experience of making sure you recruit a really diversified team?
So I think that's really important, Lucy. So you find sometimes that you've got a hiring manager who attracts and hires people that look like them, sound like them, or as gregarious and outgoing as them. And actually, what you tend to do is concentrate your team really tightly to one type of person, and you will find they're all attracting the same sort of advisors and clients with it. So I've always tried to have quite diverse teams, and I love working in really diverse teams. So I love it when you've got the real technical geek who goes and learns all the technical information, because then they can come into a sales team meeting and help the rest of us gear up. You can then have somebody else who's really good at the soft close and the good soft skills, and they can come in and share those skill sets with the team as well. So I think it's really important to have that diversity of real extroverts, but also some really kind of mindful, more softly spoken people that can go out and sell to that kind of client as well. And I really believe that there's strength in having that really diverse team, because I know we all fall into the habits of regionalizing, right? So we all tend to be given our own little patch to go and work on, but there's a real superpower in recognizing there's somebody I'm not engaging with in that team, but they're going to love Fred. So why don't I bring Fred from London up to Manchester, because these guys are really going to get on well together, and we'll be able to deliver a really good outcome for that person as well. So that's why I love working like that.
Yeah, you had a great example of that in the past couple of weeks, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely. There was somebody that has been a good supporter of Triple Point for a while, but in the last 3 years, I've never really been able to create a good relationship, in my view. And I recently had a lady join my team, totally new to the industry, from the yachting industry, actually. I don't know why she's joined this investment industry, but straight away hit it off. I had to catch up with him yesterday, super complimentary. He's actually heading to London from the Northwest next week, so they're going to grab a coffee. And it just shows exactly what you said. People will buy and build relationships with the people that they resonate with. And there's just not one way of selling, is there?
Yeah. And I love that she comes from yachting, because to me, you don't get a more personal human business than that, right?
Yeah.
You are literally stuck on, I don't know how big yachts are, but let's say it's 100 foot.
Yep.
And you have to serve that person, right? So you've got the perseverance, the resilience. Things are going to go wrong. People are going to be demanding and asking you for really stupid things, and you can rise to that. Actually, advisors aren't too different, right? They're all going to have their own things that they want, the ways that they need to be managed or worked with. So what a brilliant skill set to bring in.
It's about finding that relatability, isn't it? Yeah. And a bit like what you said around recruitment. She'd been talking for about 5 minutes at interview, and I was like, I love her. Done. She's on my team. Yeah. Done. Let's hire her.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I like that. You should have her on your podcast.
Definitely.
Definitely. When we were talking before about kind of the soft skills, and sometimes we may ignore that and kind of just teach the knowledgeable stuff. I think from my perspective, where I learned that from was through mentorship, working closely with someone who was a little bit more experienced than myself. They're the things that I kind of took from them. Mentorship's come up a lot on the podcast as well. And I think it'd be great to kind of have your perception on how that's impacted you. You obviously have a business which facilitates that as well. So it'd be good to understand a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I think as careers have evolved and as how work has evolved, there is an expectation that we become a lot more self-sufficient in how we own our own careers and how we own our own kind of knowledge building and professional building. And there's a massive gap in that. You know, there's companies now don't really have a lot of time to invest in the coaching, the training. They want us to come in kind of fully formed, hit the ground running, because the pressures of running businesses these days are so much bigger. And so what we recognized really early doors is mentorship has been talked about probably for the last 20 years as something that's really, really important. And I have had the most amazing mentors. Some of them don't even know that they were my mentor, because that's the beauty of mentorship. It's that if you gift me 30 minutes of your time and I learn something from you, that is a mentoring relationship, whether it's a formal one or informal. And what I found is now, as I've kind of matured into my career, a lot more people come to me and ask me about mentorship. And there was this standard theme, which was, I want a mentor. Brilliant. Why? Because I know if I have one, it's going to help my career. Great. What do you want to do? I've got no idea. And it happens so often. So part of what we did with the mentor standard was try and really craft out something that helps people think about what they want to achieve in mentoring before they even approach somebody, so that they're being really intentional about it. So do you want to work on soft skills? So you might be, I've got to go and stand in front of 200 advisors. I've never spoken to somebody before. I've seen you on stage. Could you please give me an hour, a couple of hours of your time so I can craft out that skill for me? That's a lot easier for me as a mentor being approached because I know what we're working on. And it makes me much more comfortable to say, yeah, I can do that. I can gift you that time. We can work together on this. And it'll be a mutually agreeable kind of exchange rather than something more open-ended, which feels very much like I'm having to walk the path with you. So I think a really good mentor shines a light on the path and kind of gives you the pointers, but lets you get there on your own merit. So then the flip side to that is there's so many people who are asked to be mentors and they're scared of it. You know, they're not sure. It's that, I think Jack spoke about it in your last podcast about imposter syndrome. And there's that feeling of, oh, well, why are you coming to me? I don't know anything. And actually it's that empowering you to be bold to say, yeah, of course I'll help you. And I have a motto in life, which we've adapted into the business, which is we all rise by lifting others. So it's really important that we all raise the bar together rather than compete and fight against each other. And actually, if you become a mentor, you learn so much from the people that you're engaging with as well. So it really becomes beneficial to both parties. It's not just a give-take type relationship. So that's the origins of the mentor standard, and that's exactly what we were trying to achieve. You can go and do the matching yourself. We're not really interested in trying to help you find those people because you'll have your own networks and places to go to, but it's those skills, both as a mentor and a mentee, to set you up for success.
I think that's really important, and it also highlights what you said earlier. You've had mentors where they perhaps didn't know they were a mentor, and sometimes I find that you might think, oh, I just need one really good mentor, but your team are going to have totally different skill sets. So as you say, you want to learn more about public speaking, you go to that person. You want to learn about product development, you go to somebody in operations. So that's a really useful reminder to the community, I think.
Totally. And you never stop, right? I'm 45 years old. I have a mentor still. I have actually two mentors. I have a reverse mentor. So we don't have kids. I can lose touch quite easily. You find people kind of keep up with the current technologies and the way society is moving along through their children. Because I don't have that, I've actively gone out to seek a young 20-year-old to be my mentor. They've changed the way that I bank. They've changed the way I've invested. They've changed the way that I think about financial literacy. So it was really important for me, and I will continue that hopefully throughout my whole career.
That's amazing. I mean, personally, being a young female in the industry, I'm really keen to know what you've done to advocate change. You said obviously it was a very different dynamic when you first started out your career. I guess what have you learned, and what could you share for a younger lady or other members in our community starting out in sales?
So to me, your network is the most important thing in your career. You have to invest in it, and you have to treat it like you would any skill that you want to grow and develop. And it's not a one and done. You've got to continue to invest in it. I liken it to an emotional bank account. So you've got to pay into it so that when you need it, when you need to draw out from it, you need help with skills, you need help with a job move, you've invested in it well enough that your network is going to give it back to you. And I believe that the power of networking is really important, particularly for women. And I don't mean that in a really kind of sexist way. I've observed over the years when men get together, they immediately start to lean into conversations. You always start with sports as a general stereotype, but then you lean into easy conversations around what's work like, who you're interacting with, who you're talking to. When you get a group of women together, they tend to lean into health, family, well-being, not career, but creating a room which permissions you to talk about your career, to talk about the skills that you want to develop, and to start building those networks beyond your girlfriends and the mothers that you meet on the school gate and that kind of stuff is really important to help you grow that network in a way that men naturally do. So that's why we've got, I was quite proud to be a co-chair of the Women in Platforms Network. I'm now a board member of a new network. We've just relabeled it Her Wealth Network, which its origins were in asset servicing, but we've expanded and grown it out. And actually, I've always said all these networks are open to men to come along to too, but I think sometimes the word woman in the thing puts them off. But by God, they would learn just as much and have just as much enjoyment out of them as we do if they were.
And I think sometimes that's half the battle. It's not that males within the industry don't want to turn a blind eye for things. Sometimes it's just they're maybe not aware what people go through, whether it's, menopause or fertility issues with women on the team and so on. So I think men being involved in women's events and networking is such a key way in which we're going to help drive change going forward. I totally agree with that.
And actually, even just the other day, we had the Women in Platforms Network down in Bath, and we had a leadership coach there teaching us about grounded confidence. That's something that we should be talking about to everybody, right? But it's nice to package it up in an environment where you're not scared to ask questions. There's a kind of open forum for everybody to engage and really network with afterwards. So if you come in with that attitude that you're there to learn something, it'd be hugely valuable to everyone who came along.
And what was the biggest takeaway from that event for our members who didn't get to experience that?
So I have a little problem with imposter syndrome. And I have a little problem with fake it till you make it. Because actually, there is always still false confidence or false fear in pushing yourself forward with that. And where we actually grow is in grounded confidence. And this is the leadership coach that was talking was a lady called Julie Goddard. In full disclosure, she's my wife, so I love her to pieces. And I think she's a brilliant coach. And so we've learnt it together and we've adopted it in our own worlds, which is you have to sit in the discomfort of the decisions that you're being forced to make, particularly in a world that's evolving so rapidly and where we have to make decisions quite quickly and on the fly. There is a huge power in sitting in that moment and being grounded and taking time rather than feeling like you're impulsively making a decision or you're making a decision that's based on false confidence. Like, oh, I've been here before, I've done this, I'm going to go ahead and do it without necessarily checking in with your surroundings and the people around you. So it comes again back to that collaboration, that power of your team, that power of the people that are around you to help you make the right decisions rather than feeling that you need the bravado to just make a decision.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what we were trying to share with everybody in the moment.
That sounds really great. I'll look out for those events going forward for sure.
Yeah. And it's badged Women in Platforms, but the criteria is you work in, with, or for. So I think an asset manager works with. Yeah. So you'd definitely be welcome.
Oh, that's good. Thank
stuff.
you.
You've covered off a lot of the kind of the positive points there. Undoubtedly, you've made mistakes, as everyone will have done through their career. What are kind of some of the common pitfalls that you've maybe fallen into? What would you be able to tell our viewers to maybe so they can avoid those as well?
I don't think that we should focus on avoiding necessarily mistakes. It's more about if you've made a decision, that you sit in that decision. And Brené Brown came out with something really good recently in a podcast that I listened to, which was she was sharing somebody else's idea, and I can't remember the origin of the quote, but it was, don't fixate on making the right decision, make the decision right. And that's a real mind shift for, you can go and choose a job that may not necessarily have been the right one for you because you've ended up with a team that you didn't particularly gel with. That doesn't matter because you will have learned something from them. You will take away as much from the mistakes that you make. That I don't necessarily want to work in a team like that. I don't want to run my business in a certain way. So there's power in experimentation. There's power in trying things, and it doesn't matter if they don't work out. And then the only other thing I would say is there's got to be some humility. So if you do mess up, one of the things I've learned really early doors is you go and you address it straight away, because there is so much power for you in embracing your own mistakes. And also it's very important not to break the trust that you've got with a client or with a manager or something like that. Because in owning it and going forward to fix it, you will learn new skills and you will continue to grow that trust rather than try and bury it, hide it, cover it, in which then trust just gets obliterated.
I think a lot of our community will have found as well, like sometimes it's those more challenging conversations that really solidify your relationship. I worked for a multi-asset manager in the height of the pandemic. I had some of the most scariest phone calls, picking up the phone. But those relationships I still have today because I didn't run for the woods. I had the conversation. And I think that's something that will really solidify relationships with advisors as well.
100%.
Being transparent and owning mistakes. Or
I think
communication's
I'm a
key.
huge believer in making yourself feel uncomfortable, because I feel like that's the only territory where you really grow, by going and standing up on stage in front of an audience that you've not done it before, or by doing a really challenging solo meeting, different stuff like that. I think that's,
There is power in discomfort. And I think that's why I'm now in my third chapter of my career, because I constantly want to learn, I want to grow. And financial services is the most perfect industry to do that in. And I like to think of my career, not like we used to have this old archetypal thing of a career as a ladder. It's straight, like you start off as a junior, you go up the pecking order. We were talking just now about, you become a salesperson, you become a really good salesperson. And then what's the next thing? They want you to become a manager. And you go through this kind of really vertical career. I love financial services because it's a jungle gym. It has allowed me to go left, right, up, down, sideways, do whatever I want and experiment to find the things that I find interesting and fun. I've known people who go from product manager into compliance, or from compliance into sales, or become analysts. And it kind of gives us that freedom, but still within the same people that we've talked to before, same environment, same language. So
because it's like what you said earlier about like in our industry, where our members can benefit from is we've all got these really solid foundations and skill sets that are so transferable. There's BDMs on my team at Triple Point where they used to be financial advisors. There's BDMs that I know that want to be financial advisors. So it's very, as you say, like there's so much opportunity.
Totally. Yeah.
It's really dynamic.
It's one to once you're in it, to embrace it and grow within it.
Yeah.
I just think there's no other profession like it, really.
No, there's not. Key pieces of advice for someone starting out, brand new, just coming into financial services sales.
Don't expect it to be done for you. So you have to own your career. You have to be really intentional about it. You have to invest in yourself. And what I would say is the ones that do the best are the ones that independently go to seek out the hard work and want to try, want to do that little bit more, volunteer for the ugly projects, the stuff that your manager doesn't want to do, because actually you are learning new skills in doing that, but you're also building your own brand and your own visibility in the companies that you're working with and the careers that you're trying to grow in. So embrace it and enjoy it and want to be uncomfortable, to your point. This is a career that will really stretch you really nicely, and you kind of need to lean into that as well.
Yeah, no, it's really, really interesting. Again, something I was a big advocate of when I started. Never worked in financial services, but I'd worked in different relationship type roles, kind of caring, different stuff like that. And I felt like that kind of gave me a bit of a backbone. I've dealt with difficult situations in the past and was able to really kind of push myself, and it's worked out for me. And I think also having kind of a supportive business behind you as well. Totally. Who's gonna support that, because some businesses don't, some do. So that's really powerful as well.
Yeah. But if you find yourself, luckily, in a business that supports you, then grab it by both hands and embrace it. But if you find yourself in a business that's going to allow you to thrive, and sometimes they're the really successful ones, they've got the real solid client bases, the client banks are pretty much already made for you, embrace that as a different challenge and say, right, well, you've given me some stable foundation. I'm going to go and do it for myself. And grow in those kind of environments as well. So it's not always about what the company can do for you. It's that symbiotic kind of relationship that comes with it.
Yeah, definitely.
It sounds like culture's really important to you, and it's something that I discuss with the more junior members on my team as well, because personally I love my business, great culture, very supportive team. What's your view on the importance of culture within a company, or perhaps you might be in a good company but see a really good salary on LinkedIn or from a recruiter. How have you handled those situations?
So for me, culture is the most important criteria when I'm either looking for a job or looking for new people to come in to work with me, because we are there in that office environment 12 hours a day. Because with BDMs, it tends to flex outside of your normal 9 to 5 as well. So you've got to really want to be there. And I am a very conviction salesperson. I do have to believe in who I'm selling and what I am selling, because that is my style of engagement. I am building, hopefully, a long-term trusted relationship. And I can't do that if there's that disconnect between what I'm selling and who I'm selling it to. So some people can do that. Some people can really compartmentalize and just focus on the fact that they're there to sell a product, and they can build their kind of career that way. And I fully admire people who can do that. But for me, it's much harder for me to do that. So I do spend a lot of time focusing on culture. And then also, when I've been privileged enough to be a sales manager and have people work with me, I'd like them to buy into that same environment and that same culture. So it is about team. It's not about a lone wolf in a region kind of going off and doing their own thing. And I think that's because life is moving so fast that as a business, to be successful now, we have to keep pace with changing technology, changing regulation, changing social conditions that are around us. And the only way you can go at pace is as a team, because you can go off on your own and you can go off really fast and be really successful. But actually, unless you're being fed by knowledge constantly and you're learning, you'll burn out quite quickly. So I like to have people who embrace the idea of, we are a team, we are going together, and we have our own bits to do towards that global success, but we're not going to do it as a standalone individual.
And what's your view on that note around hybrid working or remote working? A lot of our BDMs work in the Northwest, but work for a business in London, for example. How do you think that feeds into high performance?
You've got to be self-motivated. It's so important, because otherwise you're just going to be sitting at home kind of wondering, who should I be calling? What should I be doing? And if you're starting out in a career in sales, there is an element of teaching somebody those skills, of setting out with intent in your day, planning your day really well. But once you've been doing it 10 years, there is kind of an expectation you're going to be able to do that and manage that yourself, right? I know when I need to go into an office. I know when my batteries are getting low and I need to go and kind of reconnect with my team, kind of recharge myself and go back out there. But also, I know I get my biggest drive, my biggest energy talking to my clients. So in my world now, that's the retail platform market. And I'm out there talking to them all the time and understanding their problems, understanding how to fix those problems and how we can bring solutions to them. And that's my energy. That charges me up no end. So I always try and say to people, find that balance to know when you need the help and then come back in to the office when you need that. But then your job is to be out there and be front facing. So don't be afraid. If I don't see you for a month until the next team meeting, I'm not going to worry about that, because that means you're out there thriving and doing really well.
I think that's part of the reason why we started Trusted. As you said, being in the office, being around people is important. Field sales is very different for people that have worked in it for a long time. You can be at home, isolated. And we wanted that community aspect to allow people to kind of share best practice, bounce off each other, different things like that as well. So as a lasting question, what message would you like to share with the community that we've built?
I think embrace this, embrace what Trusted is giving you, and embrace the community that it's creating around it. And also embrace the fact that we work in a world now that is moving at such a fast pace. So you need to be curious. You need to stay inquisitive to what's going on around you, and you need to keep your knowledge fresh. And the best way to do that is through your network and through the engagement that you have with other people. So lean into that really strongly, because it will make you the most phenomenal career.
Brilliant.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Amira, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's been
pleasure.
brilliant.
hopefully there's some useful gems in that somewhere for someone.
There certainly will be. There
And we
certainly
hope
will
you've
be.
enjoyed it. Thank you so
Totally,
much.
it's been a really fun conversation.